Taxi drivers. What's the craziest thing you've overheard?
I had a brief stint as a taxi driver in the Boston area. Two very attractive women got in. I assumed they were a couple, although the man was clearly much older than the woman. They were loudly talking about how they wanted to leave Boston for Paris. I tried to strike up a conversation and asked how long they planned to drive, and they replied they were moving there tomorrow. It turned out this guy was married, to another woman, in fact. His wife had gone out for the night, and he was simply packing up and moving, not telling her or his 3 children until he arrived. They asked if I could give them a ride to the airport in the morning and that I should meet them nearby. I declined. I didn't get a tip.
This is only vaguely related, but I once met a guy who started telling me about how he'd recently been out of town and met some pretty bartender or something like that. The conversation was incredibly awkward because there were strange pauses during my answers, and many of his responses to my words were unclear. After a full 15 minutes of his conversation, I realized he was talking to a friend through a Bluetooth headset. I've never felt so stupid.
Last winter, I was working as a taxi driver in a small town in Canada. Around 2 or 3 a.m., I picked up a guy at his house, and he came out to the car with a huge sledgehammer. I was a little wary at first, but he seemed friendly, so I tried not to read too much into it. We got to talking, and he told me that his brother had died of a presumed suicide about a year ago. He believed his brother's ex-wife had killed him, and after his death, there had been a conflict between him and his ex-wife, resulting in her refusing to return some of his brother's things that were very dear to him. He admitted she was on vacation in Mexico at the time, so I essentially drove him to her house to break down the door with the aforementioned sledgehammer and take his brother's things. I probably should have called the police, but he seemed genuine and gave me a generous tip. Later, I learned that his brother's remains had recently been exhumed, and the police had reopened the investigation into his death. To top it all off, I also learned that his ex-wife's son and girlfriend were home when he broke down the door and had to flee. All I can say is that driving a taxi in a small provincial town gives you a glimpse into the local community that most people don't see.